What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin.
And we have yet another album review, and yet another one that we were eager for, and strangely enough, yet another artist where we actually know one of the members of the bands. It's kind of a theme this week.
Yep.
We are going to go over the latest offering from Wraith, Fueled by Fear. This also comes out on the 28th of June on Prosthetic Records. This band formed in 2016 in Indiana. This is their fourth full length. I actually got into them in kind of a strange little coincidence because I got their first full length in a Metalhead box forever ago. Heed the Warning. And I was like, dude, this is pretty awesome. And then from there, I kind of got into more of their stuff. We actually reviewed their last album, Undo the Chains, and it was a riffy banger, and managed to get their second album, Absolute Power, which is also awesome. And for those that don't know, this is blackened speed / thrash metal. And I mean, if you love riffs and D beats and, you know, just like kind of all the fun things in metal, at least in my opinion, you'll probably dig this band. Now, as I said, we actually know some of the members, namely one Jason Schultz, who has been their lead guitarist since 2020. Super awesome dude. We actually went over his other band, Idle Throne, not too long ago, which, yeah, I don't think he like fully convinced us to be like power metal fans. But
that record destroyed.
Yeah, it kind of got its foot in the door. I was like, you know what? I might actually like check out some Sabotage sometime. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I got into Wraith, of course, through this guy. Actually, after seeing them live, we saw them at Heavy Hell the first year we went, what, 2022?
2022, 2021?
I don't know.
One of those years.
No, it was 2022 because we were talking about Cephalic Carnage because we went to MDF that year.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah. Got to see them live, got to hang out a little bit, and then Nick turned me on, of course, to their albums. And the last album, he and Rin reviewed, and of course I dug that. It is a riffy, speedy bastard, and who doesn't like riffy, thrashy, speedy bastards?
People that don't like riffy, speedy bastards.
Okay.
So I've been like eagerly awaiting this one because this band kind of lives in that same realm as bands like Toxic Holocaust, Midnight, Bewitcher, Knife, and pretty much any other band that kind of worships at the altar of Slayer Show No Mercy, because that is kind of baseline the formula with this band, but there's also some different wrinkles on here as well. The opening two tracks I absolutely love because, man, this kind of just gets this album started in such a great way. The opening track, Asylum, is a, minute and a half, 2 minute instrumental. And man, I really wish more bands would do stuff like this. Like, instead of like, giving me like creepy atmospheric quotes and samples from movies, like, that's cool. Give me like a whole little bit of foreplay and give me riffs. Give me a hook right away. Like just a good instrumental, stomping, vicious song. Like there's great chuggy riffs and kind of gives you a little bit of time to let the production settle in, which the production here is awesome. Like, it's such a cool retro feel, especially the guitar tone. I feel like I've been listening to that specific guitar tone forever.
Yeah, crunchy and crisp. The drums are punchy as all get out, man. That's the way I would want my drums to sound if I were to record. Just the kick drum punches you really hard. The snare's got this awesome thwack to it. Like the cymbals just have this nice kind of even kiltered, not too high on the tone of the cymbals, but I mean, it's punchy. It's punchy and beefy, and it just makes everything hit a little harder.
And that song leads right into the, first actual track, or we'll just call it the second track because that first one actually counts. The title track. It's a D-beat ripper. The feedback that kind of carries over from that opening track leads in. You get this isolated bass. The drums come in, and we are off to the races. And D-beats are kind of the flavor on this for the most part. Like, great sections of groove all over, but this is kind of all about that, like, early speed metal energy and, a lot of Motorhead and Venom and, just fun stuff like that. But also mixed in with that is a lot of, like, I would say like hardcore and crossover.
Yeah.
When this band gets thrashy and vicious, it has a more crossover vibe to it with that little bit of like hardcore punch to it. Songs like Heathen's Touch, Merchant of Death, Code Red. These songs are vicious and thrashy. The riffs are just, I don't know, kind of tough sounding. Like they sound like they want to fight you right out of the gate.
Heathen's Touch, whew. That song is just a ripper from start to end. Huge, like, Power Trip vibes. Like Slayer, if Slayer and Power Trip played together, that would be that. That whole song is just a punch to the face.
Dude, that main riff on there is just labored on. And honestly, halfway through the song, I would have proposed like moving in with that riff. Like we can get an apartment together. Wouldn't be weird, man. Just you got to keep chugging on that riff because it's awesome. But this band also has like kind of a cool blackened edge. Most of it comes through in the vocals. The vocals are very reverby, kind of growled. Like, I mean, if you're familiar with a lot of the bands that I compare this to, like namely Toxic Holocaust, it's very much in that style. Like the cadences are kind of like right on that D beat, and they just kind of stay forceful and aggressive. Yeah. And there's a lot of reverb on them too, so they kind of have this like cavernous goblin sort of effect to them. But occasionally you get some like melodies and riffs that are a little bit more sinister and dark, like Warlord. Warlord kind of has like a little bit of a Celtic Frost vibe.
It does, especially in the very beginning, like the first probably like 15 seconds of that, you're just like, I've heard this before.
Yeah?
Yeah. And then another blackened thing, but also melodic, would be songs like Shame and Suffering, which is, first of all, a grossly catchy song, but there's a lot of more cold melodies in there and kind of creepy harmonies going on. And that harmonized bridge is great.
Oh, it's just kind of like more sinister sounding, because the overall mood in here, I feel it kind of has like more of that punk vibe. Like, this is like kind of a party album, but it's kind of evil. So it's like a barbecue, and then afterwards they sacrifice a virgin on an altar, or, you know, whatever other weird 80s movie that I probably fell asleep watching the other night did. I don't know. They creep into my dreams. But there's like sort of a looseness and like kind of like a fun aspect to this. Like, you know, in between some of the longer, more like lavish tracks, and I wouldn't say like lavish is a big thing in here, but like slightly more dynamic, because a lot of this very straightforward, very meat and potatoes, but also very fun. Like, you know, I'm sure there's other distortion pedals they're using, but their foot's on the fun pedal the entire time on this album. But in between those, you know, more lavish songs, quote unquote, you got songs like Horses and Hounds, which is like the weirdest petting zoo I think I've ever been to. Vulture, Ice Cold Bitch. These songs are short, kind of punky, kind of laying more on that Motorhead vibe throughout. You do get some like more crossover moments that pop up, like, you know, like kind of a chuggier bridge or a more shreddy lead that doesn't necessarily scream like kind of classic heavy metal. Right. But for the most part, they're just kind of short, riffy bangers that just kind of keep the energy peaked throughout this album.
And Ice Cold Bitch, has a very kind of fuck you attitude. We've all been there. I've been there recently. 1 out of 10, would not recommend, unless you hate yourself, in which case go for it. Do it. I'll give you a number. Go have at it.
But the way this album is paced, I think, is really cool, because it keeps this constant sort of balance between like moving over more towards like crossover thrash bands, like, you know, there's definitely some like DRI and Forced maybe too. Yeah. And kind of going back to those like early speed metal roots where it feels like it's just like whiskey soaked bar brawl kind of fun. And the main thing on this album, again, is fun. Like every riff on this album sounds like it's just fun to play. I know it's fun to listen to because we've listened to them.
Yes.
And all of them have this like great classic appeal to them. And again, the tone, the warmth, the whole vibe of this. Look, this album is just flat out fun across the board. And I was kind of surprised because I didn't look to see how long the album was. It's actually, 45 minutes?
45 minutes and 45 seconds per the archives.
And it didn't feel that long. In fact, like, by the time the last track ended, it was like, oh, it could have been more. Like, no, there really couldn't. It's already long. Like, for real?
It's already 14 songs, like... But yeah, it didn't, because it flowed so nicely, and so many moments on here are incredibly catchy. Like Hell's Canyon, you have no choice whatsoever but to get locked into that riff. Like, because they play it for a long time, and even though it sticks around for a long time, it never gets old. You're just like, yeah, that's a good riff. Like, they just locked in on a good chuggy gallop, and there it is.
Yeah, it's that syncopated gallop, which, I mean, when I was listening to it, like, I kind of heard, like, It's kind of similar to the riff on Power Slave, like the song, not the album. Well, I mean, there's probably other riffs in here that sound like Power Slave too, because heavy metal. But yeah, it has this like fun, like cool harmony at the end of the riff, but it's that syncopated gallop. You kind of just get stuck there. And it's a good place to get stuck. It's a pleasant place to get stuck. Because the first thing I thought of when I saw the song title, Hell's Canyon, was like, wow, it just sounds like everyone's swampy butt crack during this heat wave. That's a horrible place to be stuck. I recommend air conditioning or this song. Either one is better than this fucking heat wave. Where this album, I think, is at its strongest is when it leans more on the crossover stuff. Because, dude, when they hit, like, some of these monstrous thrash riffs, they got so much energy and so much power to them. Great harmonies all over the place. And Jason's lead work, I think, is just fantastic on here. Always fits the mode of the song really well. But songs like Code Red, Fueled by Fear, the title track, Merchant of Death is just probably one of the most vicious, fast-paced songs on this album. Heathen's Touch, Truth Decay as well, too. I just think these songs are just energetic. They're fiery. They're explosive as hell. But they also did that pretty well with like some of the groovier songs, too, like The Breaking Wheel. The last track is just slow, chuggy. There's just a really awesome harmonized tag at the end of that main riff, but it kind of just stays lumbering and ugly up until you get to the bridge where it speeds up for a little bit, but I kind of like the fact that they close this with just like kind of a groovier, kind of just aggro number.
And there is groove packed all over this album. In fact, one of the things I really like too is while there are breakdowns in here, they're not real long. It's just enough to get you fueled up in the pit enough so when they do break back into something speedy, you're like, all right, I'm ready to go. Like the breakdown in Truth Decay hits harder than your brother.
And baseline, this whole album is what I would call pit friendly. You're going to want to mosh, tons of D beats. There's even a 2-step end at the end of Truth Decay. If that doesn't get you moving, I don't know what will. I would say, you know, when that song comes on, just keep your eye at the edge of the pit and look for the guy that's like recently divorced and trying to get some energy out. Like, dude, it's been a horrible day. I'm going to hurt him.
Another victim of an ice cold bitch.
As for any negatives on here, I mean, all right. Well, one minor gripe I have, it's not the vocal style, it's not the sound of the vocals, it's where they are in the mix and maybe the level of reverb on them.
Yes.
That does seem to be a bit much at time, and it's kind of a straightforward delivery that's on every track. Like, it's very similar to Toxic Holocaust, albeit I think, again, there's just like too many effects on it, and it's too out front, so sometimes it kind of drowns out the riffs a little bit in spots.
Especially in the beginning, like when those vocals hit, until my ear got used to them, it sounded like it was overpowering quite a few things. Like it sounded like for a minute, even these out front crunchy guitars got a little bit lost. For me, necessarily, it's not so much the reverb, it's just having that so out front. Like maybe if you pulled it back a little bit, you could still keep the effect on it, and it would still have, you know, the proper presentation. It just wouldn't be like a guy yelling at you. Like you're standing directly in front of him and he's just barking, growling at you.
Also, on the Breaking Wheel, awesome song. I like the fact that, again, it's a groovy, slow, kind of, you know, more brooding song. It does transition into a bridge. Like, there's a big isolated vocal section, and then we're off to the D beats, get some thrashy riffs. And I feel like it kind of just ends before it really gets started. And, you know, I feel like there was room for, like, a cool lead there or something, but it kind of just goes right back to the slow, groovy stomp, which, again, I dig it. In fact, I dig pretty much every riff on here. But I just thought that was kind of an odd choice. And, all right, while I like every song on here, while I think they're all enjoyable, I don't think that this album needed every track on here to be enjoyable. I like the short tracks, they're fun, but I feel like sometimes they kind of feel like filler, like Horses and Hounds, Ice Cold Bitch, Vulture. Vulture comes off strong right out of the gate. It comes in like a home invasion, but I feel like it kind of leaves like a booty call where you're just kind of just like, you know, shh, don't wake her up.
I mean, it does have a catchy chorus.
It does.
I'll give it that. But the shorter songs, I don't think hit as hard. And don't get me wrong, I like Barn Burners, especially on a 14-track album. You just need a quick 1-2 punch. But like in comparison to a majority of the other songs, it's just they seem like kind of really simplistic. Like your mom's meat and potatoes, like really good. You like it. They're tasty, but you're just like, I could have used a third course.
Good thing your mom doesn't watch this channel. She's gonna be pissed at you.
Yeah, my mom doesn't watch this channel. We're thankful for that. Makes family gatherings and dinners a lot easier to digest.
But even with those gripes, and they are kind of minor, like even the tracks that I think are, you know, a little bit fillerish are still enjoyable. Everything on this album, I think, is enjoyable. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. This was a lot of fun, and honestly, this could be my favorite one. I don't know, because I really like Absolute Power, because I think that's just an awesome album from start to finish. But this album is definitely up there. Riffs upon riffs upon riffs. Riffs are diplomatic. In terms of metal, I think 99.9% of metalheads out there will always agree, yeah, give me a good riff. This is that album. Every riff on here, I think, is awesome. Granted, yeah, you can trace them back to a ton of riffs that you've probably heard before, but they are played so well. There's great harmonies, and the energy in this album is unstoppable. Like, this album just kind of rolls over you, and you're like, fuck it, let's do it again. I think the thrashier songs are probably the strongest ones, but I think everything on here was just fun and listenable and enjoyable. Like, I was fucking smiling and headbanging. Like, this is just like a put it on and just kind of play it all the way through kind of album, and I dig the hell out of it. If you're a big fan, again, of any of the bands I listed, namely Toxic Holocaust, Bewitcher, Midnight, those three in particular, check this album out, and go ahead and just check out the rest of their stuff too, because this is what they do, and they do it well.
Yep, I agree with Nick. It's a solid 4 for me too, and I kind of knew that straight out of the gate, pretty much from Asylum all the way to the end. This record really never stops mowing over you, and a lot of it has to do with how catchy these riffs are, and they're not, flashy overall, but they hit really hard, and I like how most of them are just big, galloping, beefy fucking riffs, and like that's what you want. Comprised with a lot of D-beat drums and just a lot of like, fuck you, but we're gonna have fun sort of attitude, because you can tell all of these songs they had fun with. The lead work is great, the riffs are awesome, catchy moments galore. You won't stop banging your head. I didn't. And like he said too, we were all just kind of like smiles and shits and giggles, and every now and again there's a great beat down moment and you're shaking your fist and we're ready to rock and roll. Even though I tend to stay out of the pit, something would tell me that this record would at least draw me to the edge of it because of how energetic it is. It's just got kind of a magnetic pull to it. You're just like, yeah. All right, I'm going to throw a table. All right, I'm going to throw a chair. All right, I'm going to throw this booth. I'm not strong enough to do that, but I'm going to throw it anyway.
Why am I on the floor bleeding? Oh, yeah. None of that shit happened because I got knocked unconscious by a guy twice my size.
And even when the ambulance came and I woke up in the hospital, I still remembered how awesome this record was.
There you go.
It's a banger. Again, if you like any of the bands we've mentioned, of course, Midnight, 100%. Slayer, Motorhead, Old Sepultura, definitely some Enforced. I'd recommend wholeheartedly that you get out there and give this a listen, because this new Wraith album kicks ass.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsofmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also in our channel up in the bottom right-hand corner of our banner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts, both new and old. The old ones are discounted, provided we have your size. And we even have hats, too. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
And again, always stuff going on at Thralls of Metal. We're only halfway through the year, so you can bet your sweet hiney that we've got tons of album reviews coming, discography rankings. We finally nailed down a date for Meshuggah, so that's coming up here soon. Nick's got Is It Metal, Is It Not Metal, collection updates, a whole bunch of metal stuff, because that's all this guy does. You're probably going to see more stuff coming from me, too, because I got an office and internet, and hopefully some more time here coming soon as my life finally is continuing to calm down. Anyway, all this stuff we're doing here at Thralls of Metal is all because of you guys. We appreciate you, all of our family, our friends, our subscribers, the people that keep this moving for us. Because otherwise it'd just be two dickheads in a basement doing album reviews. And it's still two dickheads in a basement doing album reviews, but we have all of you now to thank. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys rule. You're totally enablers, too. You just keep us going.
Yeah, for real.
Horribly irresponsible. But we appreciate it nonetheless, because, this has just been one of the coolest things I think I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
So one more big thank you, because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.